Hello guys, this is Riyadeshwar. You're back on my channel Crux of English, and today we are going to continue the modern age, and the writer that we are going to talk about is George Orwell. Now the real name of George Orwell was Eric Arthur Blair. He was born on 25th of June 1903 in Motihari, Bihar. He was a police officer in Burma, Myanmar. He lived in Myanmar a lot of his life. These are the things that you need to remember about George Orwell. He was friends with a journalist called Ian Jack, who was really informed of about things that happened in Myanmar or Motihari or Katha and these places about India and Myanmar. Who gave George Orwell the knowledge was Ian Jack, who was a journalist, and he was a really good friend of George Orwell. So George Orwell के बारे में आपको क्या क्या याद रखना है? That his real name was Eric Arthur Blair. He was born on 25th of June 1903 in Motihari, Bihar. He spent a lot of his time in Myanmar. He was a police officer in Burma, and he was friends with this journalist called Ian Jack, who informed George Orwell about the goings that are happening in India and Myanmar. Now, George Orwell created a fictional town. This is a really important question from the net point of view, that George Orwell created a fictional town in his book Burmese Days. Called Kayuntara. The name of the fictional town was Kayuntara. This was a fictional town that was created in Burmese days. Obviously, when we say Burmese days, this was set in Burma, which is in Myanmar. So, Kayuntara was a town that was created by George Orwell. Now, let's talk about the books of George Orwell. The first book that we are going to talk about is Down and Out in Paris and London. Now, this book is really not important. All you should remember is that this book was written by George Orwell and it came out in 1933. This could be important from the perspective of chronological questions, but otherwise anything about this book is not really important. The next book is Clergyman's Daughter. Now, Clergyman's Daughter was written about Dorothy Hare. The main character in the book, the protagonist of the book, was Dorothy Hare, and this came out in 1935. Now, the next one that we are going to talk about is Shooting an Elephant. Shooting an Elephant is actually an essay that was written by George Orwell. Shooting an Elephant. This was an essay that came out in 1936. This was actually based on George Orwell's real experience that he had shooting an elephant. It was autobiographical in nature. The essay was autobiographical in nature. The next one that we are going to talk about is Inside the Whale. It is also an essay that came out in 1940. This was actually a review of the book Tropic of Cancer. that was written by Henry Miller. Tropic of Cancer was written by Henry Miller. Okay, the next book that we are going to talk about is Animal Farm. Animal Farm का नाम आप सबने सुना होगा. It is a very popular book written by George Orwell. Animal Farm came out in 1945. It is allegorical in nature. What are allegorical characters? Allegorical characters are the ones that you have the characters that present to us a particular quality, that are allegorical characters. Allegorical characters, for example, if I say there is a character named sin, there is a character named good, there is a character named morality. When one character presents a certain characteristics about the humanity, then they are called allegorical characters. So Animal Farm is an allegorical novel, and it is written for the criticism of Stalin, Joseph Stalin, who was a Russian leader. So it's basically based on Russian Revolution. And there are allegorical characters presented by different animals. As the name says, Animal Farm, these are characters, allegorical characters present to us by different animals. The original title of the book was Animal Farm, a Fairy Tale. And I think the fairy tale is supposed to be a sarcastical comment on the Russian Revolution and Stalin. Okay, it was not really, it's not a fairy tale kind of book. It's just a sarcastical, ironical comment on the theme of the book, a fairy tale. Animal Farm, a fairy tale. The next one that we are going to talk about is poetics. Poetics and English language. This is again an essay that came out in 1946. This shows to us what the political language, how is political language impacted on the English language. So poetics and English language, where we were talking about the political, how political language has affected our English language. So in this essay, George Orwell has given us 6 rules that we need to follow in order to make our language clear. To increase the clarity of English language, there are 6 rules that we need to follow. The first is there should be no use of figures of speech. Then second, we shouldn't use long words. No long words. Only short words should be used. Third, if there is a word that is written that could be cut out of the sentence, cut it. Cut the word if it's unnecessary. Fourth, that there should be no use of passive voice. Only active voice should be used in order to communicate or write certain pieces. There should be no technical jargon. Only simple English words should be used. Now, the 6th is, at last he says, George Orwell says, throw all these rules out before you say something barbaric. So these are the 6 rules that are given by George Orwell to make the clarity of English language way more clear. The first is कि कोई भी figures of speech नहीं use होनी चाहिए. There should be no use of figures of speech in any writing. Second, there shouldn't be a use of long words. Words to use करने चाहिए, they should be short and simple. Third, that if there is a word in the sentence which is written जिसका वहाँ पे sentence में कोई use नहीं है, it's unnecessary and you can cut it out, then cut the word out. The fourth is there shouldn't be use of any passive voice. There should only be used active voice in order to communicate or write something that's important. Fifth is there shouldn't be any technical jargon that is being used in the writing that other people cannot understand. Rather, you should use language that is simple and precise. Sixth, he says at last that throw all these rules out before you actually write something that is barbaric. So this was the essay that was given by George Orwell, Poetics and English Language. The next book of Orwell that we are going to talk about is Leo Tolstoy and Fool. Leo Tolstoy and Fool. So here this came out in 1947. Here Lear is used from Shakespeare's play King Lear, and Tolstoy is a Russian author. You all know that. So Tolstoy actually wrote a criticism of King Lear. So George Orwell wrote this particular book in response to what Tolstoy wrote about King Lear. So King Lear का एक जो क्रिटिसिज्म होता है वो लिखा था टॉल्स्टॉय ने. जॉर्ज ऑरवेल ने टॉल्स्टॉय का रिप्लाई करने के लिए, उस बुक का रिप्लाई करने के लिए जॉर्ज ऑरवेल ने ये बुक लिखी, लियो टॉल्स्टॉय एंड द फूल. एंड इसमें he has shown, George Orwell, that Tolstoy doesn't have enough humor to enjoy King Lear, and he says that Tolstoy's life is very similar to King Lear, and that's why he can't enjoy the humor that is available in King Lear. King Lear, if you don't know, King Lear is a play that is written by Shakespeare. The next book that we are going to talk about is 1984. This is the most popular book of George Orwell. It came out in 1949. So 1984 is a dystopian novel. It's based on the main character of the book is Winston Smith. Winston Smith. The main protagonist of the novel is Winston Smith. He is the part of outer party of Ministry of Truth, which is ruled, this party is ruled by the Big Brother. The first line of the book is very important, which is, it was a bright cold day in April and clock was striking 13. This is an important line which has been asked before in net, and this was written, this is the first line of the book 1984, which is written by George Orwell. This book is a dystopian novel. Dystopian novels क्या होती हैं? यूटोपियन novels के बारे में सबको पता होगा. यूटोपियन novels होती हैं, ये यूटोपियन books, any utopian books is where we see a kind of utopia. Utopia is where the world is perfect, there is nothing wrong with it, everything fits in the right place. Dystopian is the opposite of utopian. So when nothing is right and everything is in the wrong place, that's dystopian novel. The main character of the book 1984 is Winston Smith, and he is a part of the outer party of truth, or outer party of Ministry of Truth, which the party is ruled by Big Brother. This was all about 1984. If you think that it's right, then I would suggest you go and read the summary of 1984 once. This is an important book, you should know about it. Even from the GATE perspective, UGC NET perspective, 1984 is an important book. So if you have time, then go and read the summary of 1984. The next is Great New World. This he wrote as co-author with Aldous Huxley. He wrote this, and this is also a dystopian novel. Alright, that is all you need to remember about Great New World. It's not an important book. And I think that was it about George Orwell. That was all about his books and about him. So that was it about George Orwell. The next writer that we are going to talk about in modern age is James Joyce. So do continue watching the videos and do continue with the series of modern age. I'll continue posting videos about the different writers of the modern age. So I hope I was able to make you understand. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe my channel.